Good morning, afternoon, evening, night, whatever time it is, wherever you are. I'm going to unmute my assistant so you can test the audio and let me know.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
I can hear you.
All right. So that was Noor and Mona. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
All right. I'll have to try and memorize your voices, but forgive me if I mix it up. All right. Salwa, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right.
I hear you.
How about Arpita? Maybe she's not here right now. Anyway, hopefully this will go well. I feel very disorganized, but I'll just kind of chat for a bit while we wait for everyone to come in for the next 10 minutes or so. It looks like we have a few other people. Inash, Meet, and Marcel. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Let me see. So I'm actually in a basement with poor lighting, so I don't know if it's even worth sharing my video. Can you see the video?
Yeah, we can see you.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Should I keep it on or just turn it off?
I think the more participants comes in and the network is going to be jammed up. I mean,
Yes, I think that will be an issue. And so that's why I just sent a follow-up message, right before the meeting starts for everyone, just a reminder and to have everyone turn off their video and audio to try and reduce the amount of bandwidth. Anyway, we've got a few more people coming. Alexander, Mohammed, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone for now. I'll allow participants to unmute for now. But once we get a full house, I'll probably keep it quiet. And then you guys, my assistants, if you can monitor the chat in here, and if anyone does join the Slack chat, you can see I created another Slack channel called Free Training, made sure that was public and included the Zoom link on that as well. So you can try sharing that other meeting information, the other Slack channel with people if you wish. Let's go ahead and I'll share the Slack channel with everyone if I can figure out how to do that. Okay, nope, that's join the Zoom meeting. So the only thing I see is add people to channel. I may need a paid Slack program to make it like a public channel. But if anyone other than the assistants would like to help test out Slack, if you go to one-shore.slack.com, let me just share my screen and get to that. Forgive me for humming to myself. All right, so I'll just write in the Zoom meeting. Oh, there you go. Thank you, Mona. If you look in the chat, oneshore with a hyphen, one-shore.slack.com, to get to the specific Slack channel. It looks like it's going to be the archives as opposed to joining it. I don't know, or maybe that's just the link. But I'm setting up Slack as kind of a back channel for people to communicate, ask questions, and let me know of any technical difficulties. Welcome, Adrian. Welcome, Kali. Welcome, Ahmed and Samia and Shalu. Oh my goodness, Pooja, Ahmed, another Ahmed. There are a lot of people joining right now. I guess I need to click admit on all of them. Okay, welcome everyone. I may have said your name wrong, but you probably didn't hear it because I was clicking admit on your name. Welcome to the test automation with Java and Selenium. This is going to be our kickoff meeting. We probably aren't going to delve too into depth. I'd like to greet everyone and just go over some basics and kind of come up with a simple outline of what we're going to cover. I'm going to go ahead and stop my video as well, but we'll give everyone about 3 or 4 more minutes to join. And thank you all for participating, and hopefully you'll get something out of this. We have people coming from all over. I believe all continents are represented except for Antarctica. A lot of people from India joined. I think it kind of got spread around there, and there being a lot of technical people. And with the coronavirus lockdown, a lot of people have time to do some independent study, and I welcome you all for doing that. We have people from Egypt and Thailand, as well as many other countries, Australia, United States, of course, and Canada and Mexico, Argentina, Spain, Romania, and Bulgaria. It seemed like there was a large contingent of people from Romania, so they might have been sharing the information as well. Welcome, everyone. Looks like there's a few more people joining in still. Welcome to them. Hey, Andre, thanks from Florida, and Mohamed from Florida, Andre from Romania. Welcome all. Feel free to share where you're from, and if you want to throw any rotten tomatoes or broken bottles at me if I misbehave, you can do that in the chat. Try not to hit your computer or anyone standing behind it if I offend or disappoint you. All right, a few more people coming in. I'm sorry, what was that? Here come a few more. Adita, Matt, welcome. Vivek, welcome. Lakshmikant, welcome. Let's see, quite a crowd. Oh, and here's, welcome Edward now. He's an old friend, acquaintance, who's a technical recruiter I've worked with in the past. And let's see, a few more people coming in. Welcome Nitesh. Welcome Sohel. And again, forgive me if I mispronounce your names. We will wait just about 2 more minutes and then I'll get started. I hope everyone is doing well and comfortable and safe at home. Or if you're still working, that's great as well. This has turned out to be quite an event. Welcome Chandra, by the way. And I didn't expect anywhere near this level of response. I thought I might get, maybe a dozen people interested, and I'd have a couple of private sessions. So I'm excited and a little bit nervous. Welcome Praveen. Welcome Josh. Welcome Peggy. As I was saying, I'm excited and a little bit nervous since this is a bigger crowd than I expected, and it's probably going to be less interactive than I hoped. But I think after this initial meeting, if you are still interested and you like my style of teaching, We'll try and delve into more detail and maybe separate into different cohorts. People of different experience levels, different specific interests. Say you're more interested in Appium than Selenium or various other things. I have some other classes scheduled at this time later this week using JavaScript, Python, and then also exploring data analysis and cloud deployments. And anyway, I hope this will be useful. If you find it useful and interesting or perhaps entertaining, I am a bit odd, so if you just enjoy seeing or hearing my antics, that's great as well. But I hope to make this a ongoing meeting and to get to know you all better, share some of my knowledge, and maybe learn from each of you as well. And hopefully when the economy's better and people are able to get out more, that we'll be able to continue networking and working well. But I hope this training will be ongoing. I plan to do it an hour a day at least, from now indefinitely. I'm offering this free training course. This particular class, I'll go ahead and start since we're 2 minutes after, and hopefully I won't have to click admit on too many people before. It's going to take me a little bit of time to get used to the software, to get over the kinks and make this more streamlined. I appreciate you all for coming and for being patient with me as I work through this setup. It was kind of a last-minute decision. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'll introduce myself and then kind of outline the topics we're going to go over. And then we'll do a quick getting started. And hopefully for those of you who have not been doing any test automation with Java yet, that either through watching this or through the recording or with follow-up sessions, you'll be able to get going. Getting started is often the hardest part. And so I realize that if you run into roadblocks today, don't get discouraged. Send me a message. I'm going to put up a website and have a forum where people can ask questions. I'll also be willing to do one-on-one training sessions or with individual groups. I'm considering doing private sessions for a fee, and I'm also available on Code Mentor if you want to book me for billable time as I'm available then for private sessions or for problem solving. But anyway, well, let me admit some more people into the room. Let's go ahead and get started with this. I don't have much of an agenda right now. I've spent all weekend trying to invite everyone and get this meeting ready. But this is, I'm just going to type it out, test automation with Java and Selenium. Now, there are some other elements that I'm going to be able to cover eventually, Appium, REST API testing, unit testing, etc. We'll get to those later, and we might create a separate class specifically for Appium. For API testing, I am doing an API testing with Python course on Wednesday, so I'll start that off. And then there's other topics, test-driven development. Cucumber is a specific tool that can be challenging to use. It takes a lot of extra effort to wire it up. There's reasons why you may want to use it, but if the reason you're using it is just because someone said we should use Cucumber for testing, probably you shouldn't use Cucumber. Cucumber is a tool that helps you write plain English sentences, like, given I have $7 in my bank account, when I try to remove $10 from my account, then I will get an error message that says I can't do that. So it takes those plain English sentence, maps it to code, and that's Cucumber. TDD is test-driven development. It's a style of testing. It's not a specific tool. Some people try and use Cucumber or another tool for that. But anyway, so here's some other topics we might discuss, right? But what I want to do is talk about what we are going to discuss. So today, after I go through this introduction, we are going to talk about Java setup today. I'm going to show you how to install the Java SDK. If you haven't done that, just search download JDK and you can start installing that now. And then I'm going to use Intellij IDEA by JetBrains. They have a free community edition as well as a paid ultimate edition of Intellij IDEA. I'll show you where and how to install that and get you familiar with using that for writing code, running tests, debugging, using Maven or Gradle for projects. I'm going to use Maven. Maven is a Java dependency and build management tool. Essentially, you have all these different utilities you might use. Selenium is one. Selenium is a package that you might use. It's a jar or a Java archive. And Maven tells you how to add all these dependencies to your project and build your project. So I'm going to introduce you to Maven. And then, of course, Selenium. I'm going to show you how to, well, actually, let's forget about Selenium for a minute. I'm also going to use JUnit. I'm going to use JUnit 4. There's JUnit 5 out, but it's not quite up to speed. JUnit 5 was released in 2015 or 2016, I forget. Of course, it being an open project, it's ongoing. But JUnit 5 hasn't received wide adoption. It has some issues with parallelization still. Likewise, Maven is good for parallelization, but Gradle is not. Another option would be to use TestNG as a test runner. I prefer JUnit over TestNG. TestNG has some more features like dependent tests and sweet XML that are nice to use for grouping tests, but they can often be used incorrectly. And when you run tests in parallel with TestNG, it can be trickier because TestNG has parallelization, but it's not thread safe. So that's something you need to be aware of. Anyway, so the tools I'm going to use are Java, the Java SDK, or the JDK, Intellij IDEA, that's my ID. Feel free to use Eclipse or NetBeans. I don't even know if that's still around, or something else, whatever you prefer. You can use Vim and the command line. In fact, I'll go ahead and do that for my first example today. If you're an Emacs fan, don't hate on me for using Vim. Oh, I apologize. Probably I should have shared my screen. So I've been typing while I was talking. And hopefully you can see that now. Can someone give me a thumbs up? Okay, so there we go, Slack, Zoom. Oop. Let me look at the chat here. I need to have that forward so I don't make another stupid mistake like that. Okay, yeah, thanks for posting that in the chat, Stalwa. Okay, so you can see my screen now. Thanks, Josh and Noor. Okay, thanks for catching that for me. Okay, so we're going to set up Java. We're going to set up IntelliJ. We're going to create our first test with Maven and JUnit and Selenium. So without further ado, well, let me also check the meeting to see. Oh, there are a few more people I need to admit. Mahesh, Holden, welcome. Rachit, welcome. Quite a crew. Galaxy S8. All right, welcome. I don't know. That's not someone. Janendra, welcome. Zaid, welcome. And Tushar, welcome. Okay, so looks like we've got 49 participants. We've got halfway full. Let's see if we overflow the Zoom limit of 100 before the end of the meeting. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and, 50 participants. Again, I apologize. We're going to try and make this work a little smoother in future meetings. So bear with me. It'll get better. All right. So let's create our first test. Or rather, let's create our first, we'll do our first test. So, well, we'll skip over that. Let's do the install. Now, I'm going to fake the install, and you probably will need to do so too. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my browser. first thing I want to do is I want to install JDK. All right, you can go to the downloads here and download for your system, whether it's Windows, Mac, or Linux. So, oh, a few more people coming in. Go ahead and start downloading the JDK, and then also search for Intellij IDEA, and you can download that as well. Like I said before the meeting started, Intellij is a Java, a multiple language integrated development environment. It's available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. There is a free community edition. That's what I'm going to use, as well as the ultimate paid edition, which has some additional features. You're welcome to use whichever you want. You can use Eclipse or another IDE or just a text editor. So while I'm talking, you can download those two tools, Intellij IDEA and the Java SDK. Now, if you're on a Mac, I can show you a simple way. You can just do brew install cask Java, or I think it's cask install, or OpenJDK, which is just the open source version of Java. And for me, this is going to install the JDK. I installed the most recent version, I believe, last night. And it's going to take a while to fail and say it's already installed. But you can also download it directly from here. Your operating system, Windows or Linux, may have different ways of doing this. In the meantime, while that's downloading, if anyone wants to post in the chat, do we have Mac users, Windows users? That was a slip of the tongue, non-intentional, or Linux users. Since we have people from every continent here, except Antarctica, if we have any people using Linux as their primary desktop and Linux's symbol is a penguin, I'm going to count that as as Antarctica representing. So do we have anyone representing Linux in Antarctica? Oh, thanks for posting that download link, Mona. In the chat, you can go directly to the Intellij IDEA download. Oh, got another person coming in. Welcome, Chris. Better late than never. We're just downloading and installing. Sorry about, I did not really mean to say loser. I was thinking Windows and Linux users. The Mac I'm using is actually 7 or 8 years old. I think I got it in 2012. So it's a little bit behind the times as well, but I got the latest version of the OS. And I haven't used it much. I was using my work computer for the last several years. So we may run into glitches on this machine. It's old, and like I said, it may have some troubles. For instance, I had an old version of Xcode, which is the Apple IDE installed, that was giving me errors every time I tried to run something from the command line. Managed to fix that last night by just obliterating Xcode, which wasn't the optimal solution. Anyway, I've given you guys a minute to work on that, but once you have, let's see. Okay. Oh, so maybe you just do brew install OpenJDK, but you can do brew cask install Java on Mac. I'm not going to worry about the Java install. I'm going to leave the setup as a task for you to complete before our next class. We'll plan on doing it the same time next week, okay? But also, feel free, I'm going to set up a website, and I'll have a forum where we can help each other get set up. And as I said, I'm going to use Code Mentor if you want a private session with, you know, any kind of troubleshooting or training or whatever, or a specific topic. I'm willing to do that for paid service as well, time permitting. But once you have Java installed, from the command line, open your terminal or your command prompt. And the way to test it out, just type java-version. And you can see mine. I have OpenJDK version 14, 64-bit, whatever. Right? Now, you may have a Java runtime installed. You want to make sure you have a Java compiler installed. So you want to just type Java C. That's the Java compiler. And if you get this help output, it says, use Java C option source files or whatever, something similar. Then you know you have Java installed and you have it in your path on the command line. It may not be in your path, particularly on Windows. I think it may not be in your path. On Windows, what you can do is you can do setx Java home equals whatever your path to Java. You know, there's going to be some path, JDK, and of course, you'll want to use backslashes on. This is the Windows example. This isn't going to work if you're on a Mac or Linux, but you set Java home. Actually, I think you don't use an equal sign on Windows. C colon, you know, Java 14, whatever. Yes? Did someone have a question or comment? Hey, Noor, can you see my terminal?
No,
Okay.
you're just saying your editor. That's all.
Okay. Let me go back and try to do screen share. All right, maybe I just need, okay. Do you see the terminal now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. And now when I switch back, you see the Java download when I'm flipping
Correct.
between screens? Great. Okay.
Yes.
So you might have Java 14.0 / whatever, right? And then there's a bin folder, and it's where your Java command and your Java C command is. So on Windows, you can do that to export the command line. We're not going to use the command line too much. I want you to be able to be familiar with it because it helps you to be able to set up continuous integration jobs to just run stuff from the command line. I'm a command line guy. I'm a Linux user as well. But we're going to use Intellij IDEA for the most part. But once you have Java installed, you can go ahead and create a program. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a hello world in Java to follow along from the command line, and then we'll duplicate it with Intellij. So I'm just going to use Vim, and I'm going to create a class called Hello Java. Go ahead and comment in the chat, and I'll try and look back later. If you've never programmed in Java at all before, or if you've never programmed at all, I realize we have some people here who may be manual testers or who may just be looking to get into software development and testing. A class it defines a programming object. Java is about the most verbose language of all. But bear with me, there's some boilerplate code. What you want to write is class hello Java, or call it whatever you want. By convention, it's capitalized and camel case. Here you see the words hello and Java both capitalized. That's a convention. It's not necessary. Class does need to be lowercase. That's a keyword. And then you create a function or a method in your class. And in this case, it's public static void main. Main is the entry point to any program in Java. When you create a library, a jar file, it doesn't have a main class or an entry point. But just remember public static void main. And then it takes an array of strings, right? So, this is conventionally called args or arguments. What this is your command line arguments. And you can see I'm using these curly braces or brackets here to define the class and to define the main method. Just ignore all this, what public static void is. Don't even worry about that. We're not even going to worry about strings. Just know that you have a class with a main method which tells the operating system how to enter your program. That's why it's called an entry point. This comes from the background of C and C++, which Java is inspired by. C, originally written in 1970, used main to define their entry point in a much simpler method. Those were simpler times before the coming of the Dark Lord, first Star Wars quote. Okay, what do we want to do in Java? We want to say hello world, right? So again, some more boilerplate. System out print ln or print line. This is you're calling a package system out, and the method on the out class is print line. It's a little trickier than that, but I'm not going for that. Just know in Java, you have to write system out print ln or print line to print something. And then you have parentheses. Parentheses are the arguments to a function. You see our main function has string args. Now these brackets here mean it's an array of strings. Strings are text. Hello, Java, or hello, we'll do it hello world to be consistent. Hello world is a string, and it's inside these double quotes here. So you can see that. So there's a lot of boilerplate here if you haven't used Java before. If you have, this is probably very redundant and boring. But this is our program. We're going to say print hello world to the command line. Oops. And I'm going to call my file hellojava.java. All right. And you can see I can I'm going to print this. There's my file here. And then I'm going to check Slack. Everything good, assistants? And then I'm going to also check the participants. It looks like there are no new meeting attendees to accept. So, okay, we're good. Peggy, down the JavaScript rabbit hole. Come on by tomorrow. I can use your help to help with the JavaScript class. Tomorrow, same time, I'm doing a script or a class on JavaScript. But rather than focusing on testing and Selenium, at least at first, I'm going to attempt to build a web app using Node and Vue.js. Vue is the front-end framework. Node is the back-end framework. I have some familiarity with it. I've never built an app with Vue or any of these front-end frameworks like React or Angular before. I'm kind of old school, build everything server side. I started with Perl and PHP and Ruby back in the days. So this is going to be an interesting experiment. Tomorrow, I'm going to attempt to teach a class how to build a website and how to test it with JavaScript. And I'm teaching what I don't actually know, although I do have some familiarity with testing with JavaScript. So Peggy, hopefully you can come. All right, so here's our Java program. Now, to compile the program, because Java is a compiled language, unlike JavaScript or Python or whatever, you would type Java C and hellojava.java, my file name. And some of you may not be familiar with the command line. That's all right. I'm going to get you used to it and have you giving up your IDEs. So I'm going to show. So I have two files. I have this hellojava.java, which you remember I just typed. And now when I did Java C, it created this hellojava.class. And when I print this out, you can see it's kind of weird. It's got it has hello world in there. This is compiled to Java bytecode, sort of. What I'm seeing isn't the actual bytecode. But this is compiled Java, which is interpreted by the Java virtual machine. But now that I have Java hellojava.class, I'm going to call the JVM, the Java virtual machine, on my hello Java class. I don't need to put .class. And in fact, with recent versions of Java, I think from Java 10 or 11 on, so in the last couple of years, Java also includes an interpreter. So you don't have to the Java command line also includes an interpreter, so you don't have to compile it. So I can do Java hello Java, and it says hello world. I can also invoke the class, but without the compiled object, and it will also do hello world. Now let's go ahead and move on from there. That's all I'm going to do for Java command line for today. I trust that all 50 or 60 of you have successfully downloaded and installed Java, set your Java environment variable or your Java home environment variable, added it to your path, and then used Vim, of course, the one true editor, just kidding, to write a simple hello world program, and compile it and execute it. That's a lot of work, and it's a big barrier. Let's go on to the next phase. Let's start Intellij IDEA and do the same thing with a modern integrated development environment. Like I said, if you're using Eclipse, NetBeans, or something else, that's great. I'm also going to experiment with using Git pods, which is an online IDE that allows you to check out code, edit it, and run it on a Docker container in the cloud for free. I've been communicating with Git pods, and they're pretty excited when I told them I might send 100 people to sign up. Anyway, so for Intellij IDEA, once you've downloaded that and run the installer, click on New Project. Now, we'll start just by creating a simple Java project, and we'll discard that. It looks like I don't have Java 8, so I'll select this project SDK. By the way, quick check, assistance, are you seeing my Intellij IDEA screen?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I don't
sure.
want to make that mistake again. All right, so I selected my project SDK. You may need to import it. You can also, I think, download an IDE that includes its own Java developer kit installed. So you may have it by just installing IDE or Intellij IDEA. If not, that's kind of tricky. You can also click on New over here, and you can try and find wherever your JDK is installed, if you know the path, you know, to on Apple it's under well, there's on a Mac you can find out where your is it user libexec Java home. This will tell you on a Mac, and I'm going to be a little Mac biased. I'm not a Mac fanboy, but I'm a Mac user, so I know it most. You can find your Java home, and in this case, it's library Java, Java virtual machines, and it'll point to whichever one there is. I could add that here by setting this path. Switch back over here. Command Shift G. This is the coolest tip. I was using a Mac for years and so annoyed by the Finder, but Command Shift G will allow you to go directly to a specific folder. So if you have it in your clipboard, let me make sure I do. All right. Still doesn't like that. My cut and paste isn't working. Works there. Let's try it again. Forget it. You get the idea. Okay, so I don't want Groovy. I don't want Kotlin. Those are other JDK-based languages. They're spin-offs from Java, in essence. I want to select my JDK. Getting used to your IDE is also the second challenge. From getting started, getting familiar and comfortable with your IDE is the second big challenge. I'm not going to cover that in too much detail here, but that's another thing. Help each other out. Once I get a forum up, I'll be able to answer questions there. And as I said, I can provide private sessions to help walk people through one-on-one for a fee. I'm not sure what that'll be yet. Okay, so I'm going to create a Hello Java project. You can see it's going to start it in my temp folder. Your default folder might be something else, but just type your project name, click finish, and it should start up. It should create a Java project for you, and you should see you have on the left-hand side your project pane, which you can make disappear or reappear on the side here. This main area where it says search everywhere, this is the editor window. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to create a new Java class, right? I'm going to call it Hello Java, just like I did before. And you can see IDEA is already saving me trouble typing. In my editor, it has public class Hello Java with these brackets. And then I can go ahead and type public static void main string bracket bracket args. I can call this whatever I want. I can call this parameters. Doesn't matter. And main, you see it highlights, this is my entry point method name. Void is the return type. That means it doesn't return anything, or rather it returns a void. That's kind of an artifact of C as well. Static, a static method or function that's a member of a class exists only once per class. Since this is the entry point for my program, it makes sense that each instance of the class won't have its own entry point. So that's why main is a static function. It's public, and you can see both the class name, Hello Java, and the method name, main, are both public. That means it can be accessible outside of this object or its dependency hierarchy. Again, information you don't need to understand. I thought I'd just mention it now. You can explore in more detail, or I can go into more Java fundamentals. I have a friend named Intellij IDEA who runs ultimateqa.com. He is also developing a intro to Java class, Java fundamentals, with a testing oriented focus. I may be working with him on that, but that's something to check out if you want to just get some Java fundamentals. If not, join Peggy on the dark side and use JavaScript, which is a simpler language, but has a lot of strange quirks. Or join me on Wednesday with Python, which is kind of, in some ways, the best of both worlds. Python is more explicit and more consistent than JavaScript. So similar to Java in that aspect. But it's also simple and interpreted, so fast feedback like JavaScript. But not quite as fast as you learn. Anyway, so let me see. I'm getting some messages on Slack. Yeah, Noor, go ahead and if people want to join mid-meeting, let them come on in. And like I say, hopefully this is going to be more more streamlined. I'm going to admit the people.
Yes, but Aaron, you're the host, so
Yeah, I see. I need to do the work. We'll figure it out, Noor. I'll figure out how to make it so that you can also be the host and take care of these sorts of things if you would like to help me in the future.
Sure.
Like I said, I wasn't expecting anywhere near this size of meeting, and so I didn't plan. And I thought rather than trying to get everything organized and spend some money making sense on it, or making it make sense for everyone, I figure I'll do it rough and kind of sloppy, and we'll get everyone started. I don't expect you're going to get too much out of today's lesson, unfortunately, but give us time to iron the kinks out, and this will be more streamlined. All right. So where were we? All right. So we're going to duplicate that same program, right? System out, print line, hello, hello world. You can make it say whatever you want. You can make it say hello, Aaron. You see inside the quotes, which IntelliJ turns green, makes it nice and easy for me to see. These orange characters are reserved keywords. This yellow one is a method name. Inside the green is a string. So it's going to say hello, Aaron, when I execute this. I can click on the arrow here and run just the main method, or click on this arrow at the top, and it's going to run the class. So you'll see how this works right there. By the way, at the end of the hour, I'm going to reserve some time to talk about what we're going to cover in future lessons and kind of map a wider outline. And then also several of you I know have expressed interest in a more advanced class. We'll discuss that at the end of the hour as well. So if you want to talk more about more advanced topics and details, hang on at the end of the class. All right. So you can see this compiled and ran, and it has this little output window in the bottom of my screen. This here is essentially the command line that it ran, and it is a doozy. It keeps going and going and going to execute the command, and here's the output below that, hello, Aaron. Now I can change that. If I change this string here, if I say hello class, if I save that and rerun it, it should say hello class. Nothing really surprising there. All right, and I can hop on over here, and I'll go to my TMP folder, temp folder, and let's see. I have Hello Java in here, so I'll go to the Hello Java. This is the project folder. It has this .idea folder. You can see that here. It has out and it has source. Now, if I look at my, oh, I'm not on Windows, but for those of you on Windows, dir will work. For me, I use ll or ls source. Here's my hello java.java. Now, if I ls out, oh, there's my hello java.class. So I can do, from the command line, I can execute, oops. There's something funky going on with my cut and paste. I'll see the out production. I need to move the zoom controls out of my way. Okay. So I'm going to the output folder. I just want to show you that I have this hello java.class. I can java hello java, not with the dot class, and it executes there without me having to compile it and run it from the command line. It's really useful, I think, to understand the command line and how it relates to your IDE. So while this may go over your head for some of you people right now, it's something I want you to be exposed to, even if it seems like gibberish to you at this point. Let me check Slack. It looks like I've got another message. Oh, Mohamed, welcome to the Slack channel. Okay, we're good. Okay, going on to the next subject. That's all well and good, right? I've created a Java program. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close this project. We're going to create a test, right? This is a testing class. That's the fundamentals of Java, and we're about 20 or 37 minutes in it, and we haven't written our first test. So let's create a new project. By the way, put a thumbs up or say hello, yeah, whatever, or no, it's not working. If you were able to get Java running and you're able to execute a class, you know, give me a thumbs down or something if you are confused or you're going to need more help and have me go over this. And I'm hoping Noor, Arpita, and Mona, and you guys can kind of tally and just give me some feedback at the end of the class when I go over these topics. Like, were you able to download and install this? Were you able to run a simple hello Java class? That I'll know if people are successful or not, and for the people that are not, what sort of feedback I can do to improve. All right, so I'm creating a new project. You can see I've got my SDK selected. You can click on new to add a new SDK. I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole again. I want a Java project, but this time I wanna use Maven. So we're going beyond. I've introduced the JDK, I've introduced IntelliJ, and I've written my first Java program. The next thing I'm going to do is introduce Maven. Maven, as I said at the beginning, is a build tool that helps you to resolve your dependencies. And what we're going to do is we're going to install a couple dependencies. First, JUnit, which is a test runner tool. And then we're going to install, or we're going to add the Selenium dependency. Hopefully by the end of the hour, we'll have our first Selenium test running.
Hey,
All right.
Aaron.
Yes.
We're stuck in one screen again.
Oh, man. What do you see?
We were just seeing the IDE only, the Intellij IDEA.
Oh, yeah, I want you to be on the IDE. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for just a second. Okay. All right, do you see my screen again with Project SDK?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
So you want to select a Maven project. Well, we've got a few more people coming in. A couple of latecomers. And it looks like a few chat messages. All right, we've got thumbs up from people. It sounds like people are making progress. Are the people doing thumbs up people who already knew how to do this? Or are they people who are learning to do this for the first time? All right. Awanish, I hope you're in. Oh, we've got some more. Okay. Looks like we've got some welcome new participants. We're just creating a test in Intellij IDEA, which is a Java editor, integrated development environment. We're creating a new Maven project. All right, let me clear all this zoom stuff from my screen. I don't even know if you guys can see the zoom windows that pop up in front of the rest of my screen. All right, ignore this create from archetype, all this stuff. Just select Maven and then select next. Type a group ID. I'm gonna call mine Oneshore Training. You can call it whatever you want. Use your own name, your company name. You might see things like, you know, com.java or whatever. I'm going to use Oneshore Training for my convention. And artifact ID. This is going to be my project name. I'm going to call this first Selenium test. Now, the first test we're going to write isn't a Selenium test, but this is just the name of your project. You can see project name. The location will be a folder. It may ask you to create the folder if it doesn't exist. All right. So you see here, I have this pom.xml. POM stands for Project Object Model. This is a Maven file. It tells Maven about your project. So you can see I entered the group ID, the artifact ID, the version here. We'll just leave it at 1.0 snapshot. And then you see I've got this little pop-up on the bottom that says Maven projects need to be imported. I'm going to click Enable Auto Import. All right. So we look at our project structure. We have this .idea folder. This is the IDE, keeps track of some files. We have source, and then we have main and test. Remember we had, on the command line, we had dot means to go to the parent folder. So you can see I have my project, and I had the out in the source folder. So, and under the source folder, there's nothing else. But now under source, I have main and I have test. I have main Java. So when I click on this, it's going to ask me here. It doesn't do this for every project, but since I'm new using this, what language level do you want? So this is what Java version. So Java 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, up to 13 or 14. So all of my examples for the time being are going to be Java 8 or above. So that's simple. I'm just going to click OK on that. Now, within my Maven project, I can also use the Maven compiler plugin to tell my project how to do that. So ignore this gibberish that I'm typing, build plugins, plugin, and I'm going to type Maven compiler plugin, and it will automatically add that. It adds the group, the artifact, and the version. What is it? 3.8.1, I think, is the most recent. So this is just telling Maven to use the Maven compiler plugin. And what I'm going to use it for, oops, under this plugin, I'm going to specify a configuration. I'm going to say use Java source version 8 and target version. So compile to read source files as if they're Java version 8 and output them as if they're target version 8. Don't worry about this. This is XML. This is Maven stuff. This is just stuff you cut and paste or get auto-generated in your project. We can discuss this later. Maybe a few months down the line, we'll have a deep dive on Maven fundamentals. But for now, just know that this is boilerplate that can be added to your project to make it easier to compile. Let me check the chat here. Everything good?
Yes, so far so good.
Great. Any more messages in chat to look at? Looks like we got some thumbs up. Okay. So this is what a Maven project looks like. It's an XML file. Now, you don't actually have to specify that, but when you try and run it from the command line or from a continuous integration server like Jenkins, you have to be explicit, excuse me, about which version of Java you want to use. And that may matter in some cases. All right, we've got one more person joining. There we go. All right, so now let's go ahead and create our first test. So we've got source main Java, this folder structure. Let's go ahead and close that. We're going to jump into source test Java, this folder structure, and we're going to create our first test. I'm going to right click or double click or whatever. I can also go up to file, new, and do it either way. but this is the way I do it. I double tap on my keypad or my finger pad, whatever, new Java class. And I'm going to call this hello test. And it's a class. Java has all these different types of objects. Class is what you want to click. Okay, I'll close that participants window. So you can see here, we've got something that looks really familiar. Public class hello test, as opposed to hello Java or hello world. Now I want to create a test method, right? So I'm going to call it public void. This time it's not going to be static. I want it to be able to create a new instance for every copy of the class. So public void, I'm leaving static out. There's no return type. And then I'm going to, I want to test my greeting. And so you can see I create these empty parentheses. That means there are no arguments to this function or method. A function, if you don't know what that is, don't worry about it at this point. A function is a group of statements that takes optionally some arguments and returns optionally a value. It's a way to organize code in Java and many other languages. But yeah, it's just a term you'll get used to. And we have these brackets that say, this is the start of my function, this is the end of my function. You've heard me use the terms method and function interchangeably. That's because a method is a function that's tied to a class. It's just object-oriented programming, Java terminology. You'll get used to it if you're not familiar with it. Okay, so let's go ahead and duplicate our same test. I want it to say hello world, right? And we can run this as a test instead of, there's no main, there's no entry point, right? So Java doesn't know how to run this program. As far as it's concerned, it's an object I can use in other classes, but it doesn't know how to run it. But JUnit does know how to use it. Now I put this @ symbol and I type @test. See, it wants me to help with this test accessible. I don't want that. I want it to be a test. And now you see I have this little red light bulb. That's an error. So it says I can do a couple things. I can add JUnit 4 to my class path or add JUnit 5 to my class path. I could do those and I could execute my tests in IntelliJ. No problem. But then when I try and run it from the command line, or I try and run it from Jenkins or some other continuous integration environment, it's going to not know where to find JUnit. So what I want to do is I want to add a Maven dependency. I could also add testng or create my own custom annotation. I don't want to do those either right now. So I want to click add Maven dependency. And now something happened recently, like in the past year with IntelliJ, or maybe it's just on my computers. Some versions of IntelliJ have trouble sometimes finding objects. So I'm going to click cancel here, and I'm going to show you how to do it the hard way. I'm going to go back to my pom.xml file, you can see here, and now I'm going to add below the build section. It doesn't matter if it's above or below, but I like it below. I'm going to add a section called dependencies. Again, this is all defined in the Maven pom.xml specification, which is referenced here in this schema, which you don't need to know about. This is just XML boilerplate. The two languages, XML and Java, weren't made for each other, but they deserve each other because they're both very explicit. That has the advantage of being easy to reproduce, the disadvantage of there's a bunch of junk that you write out. It's more verbose than it needs to be, and frankly, a lot of it is stuff you don't need to know about and don't care about. Okay, welcome Nashwa. All right, so back to dependencies. I'm going to add a dependency, and I'm running short on time, so I'm going to kind of breeze through this. I'm adding a dependency, and I'm going to add JUnit. Now, it may auto-detect that, and it may not, but, or rather, I'm going to expedite this. So I have group JUnit and artifact JUnit, and then I'm going to put the version as, what is it, 4.12. All right. Now, what I'll do after class, and I can send email. I don't want to spam you guys all with a bunch of email, but I'm going to send a couple of emails. One, if you want to opt in for receiving like class-related emails, like for instance, I'm going to send you a GitHub project with this example code if you want. And then the other thing is if you want to receive like a weekly Java tip that's will probably be related to the class, but not necessarily directly associated with what's going on. Just kind of like a newsletter of tips. We'll see if that works out. But anyway, so I have my JUnit dependency, and it looks like I've got a couple of messages in the chat as well. Nor or any of my assistants, was there something that you were slacking or messaging me that I missed?
No, just
Okay.
all people sending messages.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
a
okay.
good-
All right.
yeah.
I'm just hearing about a bunch of clicks in the background and want to make sure everyone gets through this. Hopefully this is useful and I'm not belaboring unimportant details too much. All right. So I've got my JUnit dependency. Now I'm going to flip back over here to my hello test. And you can see it pops up here. Now that I've added that dependency to Maven, Maven actually downloads and puts in a certain directory in my .m2 directory, the JUnit jar, the library used that tells Java how to use JavaScript. Because it's not included with language, it's an external package. So now I hit my I hit Option Enter, excuse me, or you could go about several different ways of doing that. And it says import org junit.test. That's what this annotation is. Now, import is the Java command that shows you how to import, it's a good name, for to import a separate package. This is the JUnit, the org JUnit package, the test object, or this annotation. It's called an annotation because it's annotating or decorating my method here. So now it's a test. And you may have noticed that when I clicked that, these green arrows appeared. So I can now run a test. And I'm going to go ahead and do that really quickly. And this has probably not been very exciting so far. We've done Hello World 3 times, and this time we're doing it as a test. So it's compiling the test and running it, and voila, Hello World. Amazing output. Now, you can see here on the left hand of the bottom side, and I'll just expand this up, I have hello test, that's my class here, and test greeting, that's my method. If you remember, class, test, hello test, my method, test greeting. So that's what it's showing me there in my output on this left-hand side, and it shows the check mark. The green check mark means the test passed, and it says right here, test passed, 1 of 1 test. Let's make this a real test. A test is only a test if it tests something. This obviously is not test something. So what I want to do is I want to create a variable. My variable is a string. String is a type. String, integer, floating point, or any type of class. I can create an object. We'll get into object-oriented later. Just consider everything except for line 8 to be boilerplate here. So I want to create a string, and I want to call it greeting. Now, greeting is my variable. So I'm creating a variable called greeting. You can call it whatever you want. It's of type string. String is a built-in type of object for Java. So I'm assigning, and you can see I put a semicolon at the end of each line in Java, except of course there's exceptions on the methods, on the classes, and the annotations. They don't have semicolons. So, and then what I can do, once I've created a variable, I can give it an assignment with equals, a single equals sign, and I can call this hello class, or whatever I want it to say. I can say Aaron is a dummy, and that will be my message. But I don't want to say that. Now, you can see I'm doing this on 2 separate lines. I can also combine this onto 1 line here. So I can do string greeting equals hello class in quotation marks. The quotes indicate that is type string, and the semicolon indicates it's the end of a line or the end of a statement. So I could actually type another command on the same line. But that's bad practice and makes it hard to read. But now I'll run this again. I'm going to run my test. And what it's going to do, and I'll reformat it while that's running, it's going to create a variable called greeting with this hello class. All right, good, it ran. Yeah, I was talking, compiler, don't interrupt me. It's called greeting. It assigns this value, hello class, to a string called greeting. And then I pass this argument greeting, this variable named greeting, to this print line function. And you can see it does the same thing we've always done. Now, suppose I have this greeting class. I'm not going to worry about it, and I want to test it. So I want to test out my greeting. Now I'm going to make this a test, right? Rather than printing it, or actually, in addition to printing it, I'm going to assert. Now, JUnit includes assertions. Assertions means I'm making an assertion. I believe this is true. What I want to do is I want to assert true that that greeting is an instance of string. And so I click on assert true. I'm clicking option return on Windows or Linux, I'm not sure. You can also go here. It shows the hint here. But I can also click on the help action. Anyway, I'm going to import assert true from JUnit. So you can see it says import static assert true. Now I can run this test. And we're just about out of time. For those who have to go, I understand some of you have other engagements, that's fine. But I wish you well and would like to talk to you next week. For the rest of you, I'm going to go ahead and continue for a few minutes. I did promise we were going to run a Selenium test, and we haven't gotten to it. But anyway, so I want to insert true. I could also assert that it's false. And I would have to import that. And then when I run my test, you can see I get an error. I get an assertion error. It prints hello class, which is false. Let's make this a more realistic test, all right? So what I want to do instead of asserting that it's true, I want to assert equals. I want to assert that my greeting is equal to hello class. And I'll need to import assert equals to. All right. Now you can see it just said import static org JUnit assert.star. IntelliJ got tired of telling me to import things. So it's saying import everything under assert, right? It says assert true, assert false, assert all of these things. So this is just a shorthand. Assert them all. Aaron keeps changing what he wants. Just give him everything and be done with it. That's what Java is telling me. All right, so I'm going to run this again. And it should assert that my greeting, my variable, equals hello class. Oops, I did this on purpose. Actually, I didn't do this on purpose, but I noticed it before I ran it. There's no comma. So it says it was expecting hello comma class, and it's actually hello class without a comma. So I actually have, I have those reversed. So you can see the actual is hello class, the expected is greeting. So I should actually have done that the other way. Assert equals, assert that what's expected is hello class is equal to my greeting. So that's correct. And I'm going to correct this at the same time. And that's the top of the hour. I said it was going to be rough, and I didn't lie. All we've done so far is we've created a test using JUnit. We've used Maven to import JUnit into a project. We've set up a Java development kit and installed IntelliJ and run our first program and first test here. So for those of you who do need to leave, thank you for coming. I will get back in touch with you via email. Message me on LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn is kind of hard for communicating. It's okay for one-on-one, but when you have 100 people sending you a message, it does get challenging. I'm going to try and make this easier, but I will send you a message before the end of the day, my day, for those of you in Asia, your day is already well spent and done. But I'll send you a message with this source code, with our next meeting invite, with the links to download and install the Java Development Kit and Intellij IDEA, as well as a couple more points. Now, for those of you who are going to stay, I'm going to take about 5 more minutes and show you how to create a very simple Selenium test, which will open up a web page and check the title. That should take me about 5 minutes maximum. And then for those of you, I've spoken to several of you before, for those of you who want to talk about more advanced topics that we're not going to get to right away, like Appium or API testing or Cucumber or any of those advanced topics, stick on in about 10 minutes. We will go ahead and have an advanced discussion and see about what topic we want to have. I'll create another class. And another thing I'll do is for those who appreciate this basic walking through the very basics of Java, we can continue from scratch if you're new to Java and want to keep doing this. But for those who are more advanced, who may have experience with Java or may even have some experience with Selenium and want to talk about more advanced things, we'll probably break the course into 2, and maybe I'll do 2 classes a day. But I appreciate those of you who came. Feel free to share with your friends or coworkers if you want. There is a university I'm in talks with for giving webinars through their system, which will probably be more organized as well. So for those who need to go, I appreciate your time, and I'll be sending you an email. Thank you, and we'll see you next week, same time. For those of you who want to stay and see the Selenium example or have a more advanced discussion, let's go ahead and continue. All right. So let's go back to our code. What I want to do now is I want to change this into a Selenium test. And maybe rather than making it a test, I'm just going to make it a simple Java project. No, it's a test. Let's keep it in a test. I wanted to show you how you can run Selenium without using JUnit for executing a test. But I'll go ahead and, oh, this failed again with the exclamation point missing as well. I'm going to go ahead and create another test that shows you, as kind of a teaser, how to run Selenium on your local machine. So I'm going to, double click that to, okay, expand my project. So under source test Java, I'm going to create a new Java class, and we're going to call this Hello Selenium. By the way, another sanity check. How did that simple example go? Did that make sense? Were those of you following along in your own code able to execute that?
Yes, from my end.
All right. I'll check the chat, get some more thumbs up or whatever. All right, Peggy says it made sense. That's high praise coming from a JavaScript developer. Vivek, Ahmed, great. Andre? Nor, you say it's always better to start from scratch. Make the advanced class suffer. But yeah, we'll break out and we'll have an advanced class where I won't go through this. I'll just assume you know the basics of Java and probably the basics of Selenium as well for an advanced class. And we'll figure out a time to do that. I've committed to too much already, so we'll have to fit it into my schedule and everyone else's. For those of you who are like Noor, it must be midnight where you are in Thailand or in India or China or wherever. We might be able to find a time of day that's more convenient for you guys. But if you're working and taking this as a night course, that might be beneficial. Anyway, back to our test. What I want to do is I want to create another test, right? And open homepage. And I'm going to go to my own website. Okay, I'll start over. Public void open homepage. And you might notice classes by convention are capitalized, methods by convention are not. It doesn't actually matter in Java. All right, so what I need to do is I need to create a instance of Selenium WebDriver. So I create a WebDriver, and I'm going to call it driver. And I'm actually going to create that outside of my test method. And you can see this is red. It cannot resolve symbol WebDriver, more actions. I want to add a Maven dependency. It's not going to find that. I don't know why. But here's how you find something in Maven if your IDE doesn't detect it. I type Maven web, it's going to be Selenium. Yes? Did it not switch screens?
You can search by Maven Selenium dependency, and you will find the repository.
Yes, exactly. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Can you see my browser?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, I searched for Maven Selenium, and it brings it up. It has Selenium Java. This is the one we want, and it shows the latest version. Well, we don't want the 4.0 alpha, and in truth, there's not much difference between that and functionality in this here. So I can grab this dependency here, and I can paste this into my pom.xml. If it's not auto-detecting and behaving well for me. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. You can see my dependency. The group is org seleniumhq.selenium, and the artifact is selenium-java. The latest version is 3.141.59. There's a fan of pi there. Simon, I believe, came up with that crazy notation. He started with 3.14, and then he went 3.141, and then he went a little crazy. But anyway, a little digression. So now we go back to Hello Selenium, and you can see it says it can't resolve WebDriver, but it can detect it now that that's in my pom.xml. For those of you who have a different version of IntelliJ or Eclipse or something than me that doesn't have that problem, you may be able to just type it and it can auto import it and add it to your pom.xml. I don't know why it's not working for me on this machine. But anyway, I now have imported WebDriver, and so now I can create an object of type WebDriver, and you can see here I'm just calling it driver. Now, in order to create my driver, I want to do driver equals new. I can do like a Firefox driver or a Chrome driver or a Safari driver. You can do an Internet Explorer driver if you're on Windows or a Microsoft Edge driver. Is it just called Edge driver?
Only Edge, yeah.
Edge driver, okay. I'm just going to make a Chrome driver.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Was there a question or comment?
No.
Okay. So I've created a new Chrome driver, and then the next thing I want to do is I want to do driver.get. Get gets a URL, and I'm going to type in the URL. I'm going to type in oneshore.com. That's my own website, and some of you may have noticed it's completely broken. It hasn't been updated since about the time I bought this computer 7 years ago. And there's a bunch of broken links, and the contact form is broken. I was hoping to get to that this weekend, but of course I didn't. So this should be a successfully working test. Now, there may be some gotchas. When you run Chrome driver, you may need to install Chrome driver as a separate tool. So hopping back over to the browser, you can type install Chrome driver, and it'll show you how to do that. So you can go to chromium.org Chrome driver. You can download it here, and then you'll have to set WebDriver Chrome driver property or whatever. There's probably a Maven project that will do that. The way I did it is I used Homebrew, which is a Mac tool. And I just brew install Chrome driver like that, and that works. You can also do npm install. That's the node package manager for JavaScript. It's a nice tool to install Chrome driver as well. And we'll go through in another session maybe in a couple weeks how you set up Chrome driver and Gecko driver for Firefox and Safari driver. I don't have a Windows machine, but maybe we can have a guest host show us how to install Edge driver to be able to use these different drivers. But this should be a working test. Let's run this test. Well, I should rephrase it. This should be working code. It's not a test because it's not really testing anything. But it should open Chrome and get my website OneShore. Hey, there we go. And it says Chrome is being controlled by automated test software. Did you guys see that pop up, or is Zoom still on the IDE?
Yep.
Great. All right. That's a picture of me from 10 years ago or whatever when I was living in South America. Here's my broken website. If you click on training, yep, you can, for those who are in the know, that obviously looks like a Ruby on Rails error. All right. So that worked. Now, another thing you might notice is I have this phantom Chrome tab. That's because I didn't tell it to quit. So the next thing I'm going to show you is driver quit. That tells you to quit your browser. If you were to say run 100 tests on your machine and you didn't call driver quit, you would have 100 browser windows open that were never explicitly closed, and that can be a pain to do manually. So I run this again, and now it'll pop up and close itself. It'll probably appear for just a split second, so you may or may not see it. Starting Chrome driver, there it goes. Okay, no worries about on this old machine with this slow internet missing it, although it didn't fully render the page before it quit. One last thing is I'm going to do system out print line just to test something. Driver.getTitle. All right, get title will do what you expect it to do. All right, I see there's a few, oh, we've got a latecomer. Someone win? Opens the browser, closes it. All right. And then I can go to my output here. And when I scroll past this logging output, I see my title, OneShore Software Development and Test Automation Consulting. All right, so that's all I'm going to go into for Selenium right now. I hope this has been a good, gentle introduction. The thing I hope you've got most out of today's lesson is how to get your environment set up, getting a little bit familiar with me and my teaching style. Maybe it's not for you. If you have areas for feedback where I could improve, I would appreciate if you want to send me a LinkedIn comment or an email or some other way. Let me know what I can do to improve the communication and make this flow more freely. And then the third thing is I just wanted to meet you all and kind of get the ball rolling, right? I could have taken a couple weeks to try and polish the presentation and, you know, all the technical setting up Zoom, all those sorts of things. But I thought, let's just get the ball rolling. Let's get started while we're all, many of us are stuck with nothing to do. And I hope you'll all be safe and take care and have fun learning. And goodbye for those of you who are done. For those of you who want to stay, who are more advanced, we'll give everyone a couple minutes to clear out, and then we'll have a discussion, and I'll unmute everyone, and we can take turns making a few comments. All right, goodbye for those who are leaving now, and we'll see you next week. Okay, Awanish says, you are doing great. Thanks a lot. Dennis, thanks, Aaron. Ahmed, we could use that URL for test self-practice. Yeah, you can use oneshore.com for practice. I'm hoping to move it to a stronger host, but yeah, go ahead and try and break it. Worst case, I'm going to get a huge bandwidth bill from my provider. So please don't go crazy with that. And don't hack my server. It might be possible for you to do that. Class was good from Chandon. Thanks. Went from a basic Helloworld to a basic Selenium test. That's a good description. Yes, Aditya, Chrome driver path is necessary in many cases, but I happen to have Chrome driver server running on my machine. So that's some kind of hand-waving magic for today. We'll go into that into more detail. We'll plan a lesson in a couple weeks on Chrome Driver, and I'll probably write a blog post specifically about setting up Chrome Driver. That sounds like a good task for me to do this week. So thank you for that, Aditya. It's not needed to set and get the driver exe. In this case, it wasn't. We'll go into the nuts and bolts of Chrome Driver later. Noor, after dinner. This is the best time for me. Great. What time is it there? It's got to be after midnight for you, isn't it?
Yes, it's midnight.
All right. I am not a late night party animal, but kudos if you are. All right, Andre. Okay, it looks like we're great. So how many people are left? Let's see. 29 participants left. Great. I'm going to unmute all. Don't everyone talk at once, but if you have some background noise, go ahead and mute yourself. Let's go ahead and just one at a time. I'll call out just from the list. Aditya, you mentioned Chrome Driver path. What would you like to see in terms of more advanced training? And I'll try and take some notes here at the same time. And if you don't have any other comments right now and you're just listening, just say pass. It looks like she left. Arpita, thanks for joining and helping out. Do you have any comments? I'm just gonna be a stenographer.
No, Aaron. It was a
Okay.
really good session. Thank
All right,
you.
thank you. Navena, sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Do you have any comments or anything you'd like to see?
The other way you pronounced it was good, Nevena. Hi.
Nevena? Okay, hi.
Well, I used to learn JUnit a long time ago, so I'm a bit rusty with my knowledge. However, I do remember that page object model was giving me troubles before, so
Okay.
I'm looking forward to covering that topic.
Okay, good point. Yes, I was running short on time and there were so many people joining, I didn't really get a good curriculum. So apart from the source code, I'm going to send out a curriculum, if not quite a schedule, in the follow-up email. But that's a good point. Page object model can be tricky. There's a million ways to do it. There's no official way, even though there's the page factory, which is actually being deprecated. So we'll talk about page object model. We may jump right into that with an advanced class, or if you want to wait maybe a few weeks, we'll get into that once everyone is familiar with Selenium on the general class.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks. Salwa, thank you. Did you have any comments?
No, today's session was great, and I have this P6 and interested in some advanced and boom practice.
Okay, so great. Do you feel like having this split between an introductory and a more advanced class where I make assumptions about your knowledge, would that be useful?
I think it's okay, but we can also do some a little questionnaire in the channel to ask people who are interested in basics and who are interested in.
Yeah, I'm just going to go with everyone who's left and give everyone a minute to make a comment if they wish. So thank you.
I'm interested in advanced.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Oh, Noor, yes.
Hey, I was interested into learning more about using the principles of Java in test automation, like polymorphism or,
Okay, so
like basic concepts.
Object-oriented principles, things like that,
Correct.
and maybe lambdas and things like that as well. Yeah, good idea, Noor. That'll be in the more advanced, either later on or as part of the advanced class. Okay, Ahmed Nasif Chowdhury, do you have any comments or suggestions? Looks like you might be here twice.
Yeah, excuse me. Can you listen to me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. Like I have done automation before and worked with Java as well, but not. I haven't continued so far. So I think it's good. Like whichever way you go, I'm fine with both.
Okay,
I'm
great.
understanding what you're trying to teach, so I tell you to like continue the way you're going. And yeah, I'm also looking forward to advanced topics, more
All right.
advanced topics like OOP and other stuffs.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
For those of you who are advanced and you want to help contribute, once we get like a forum or a mailing list going or a Slack channel, feel free to help contribute those who are by helping those who are just getting started. I hope rather than just everyone depending on me that we can build a community that helps each other. So thanks, Ahmed. Salwa, I already
My
asked.
pleasure.
Right. Okay. Let's see. I guess the order of users is switching around. Aditya, did I ask you yet? Did you have any comments? Thank you, by the way. No. Okay. Adrian, do you have any comments or topics you'd like to explore?
I'm okay with what was presented. So,
okay, great. Does this seem like a good level and a good pace for you?
sorry, my phone just called. Yeah, sure. Very good pace. Very good information, step by step. It's good.
Okay, thank you. Take care.
Yeah.
Andre, do you have any
Hey,
comments or suggestions?
Yeah, as I said, nice and simple presentation. Maybe I could add or say again, as Navina said already, maybe we can discuss a little bit more advanced on page object model, maybe some hints or tricks that you do. And another great topic will be the parallelization testing.
Okay, thanks. That's one we're going to get to, and probably one of the most challenging things that people write a bunch of Selenium tests, and then they want to be able to run them in parallel because it takes a long time. And that either the way they've written their test or the way their framework is structured, that it doesn't parallelize well. When I was working at Sauce Labs for the past 3.5 years, that was one of the things that many of their customers faced a challenge with, because Sauce Labs, the main idea is to run the tests in parallel across many different browsers. And that was a challenge. A lot of organizations went from running locally, sequentially, to being able to run in parallel. We'll cover that in a few weeks as well. Okay. Chandan, do you have any comments?
Hi, Aaron. So,
Hi.
are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, I'm a beginner in core Java and Selenium.
Mm-hmm.
So my suggestion would be like you initially take some core Java concepts, like what's required for Selenium part. So basically, once you're familiar with the core Java concepts, like automatically, if you know few things in Selenium tool, we can fastly pick up, I feel.
Yeah, that's my plan, is to kind of introduce everything together, right? Besides getting started, I introduced a little bit about JUnit and Maven as well as Selenium today, and I hope to continue to expand that. You know, like in a future class, we'll talk about object-oriented or using Lambda expressions as we write our tests, so that it all comes together.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Amy, Amy or Ami, did you have any comments?
Yeah, hi Aaron, thanks for the lovely session. And just wanted to know whether are we going to cover API testing and APM?
We are. It might be a while. And I may create a separate course specific for API testing or Appium. But eventually in the main group, we'll probably get to both of those. Thanks for your feedback. Like I said, we may create an Appium specific class here in a couple weeks once I get organized and get everything shaked out. One big challenge with Appium is to either set up a mobile device or to have emulators and simulators to run on, and that can be a pretty big hurdle to take on with a new group. But thank you. I do plan on getting to those. although it may not be for a while, or it may be in a separate class. Hesham, I see you've raised your hand.
Thanks.
Oh, hi. I am not a beginner, but not expert too. Your case is okay, but I have problem with some JavaScript sites. While I try to automate it, I get problems. So can you insert some working with JavaScript sites on your syllabus?
I can, yeah. So are you talking about using JavaScript like a driver.execute script? This is just the Selenium command for doing that. Or are you talking about using JavaScript instead of Java?
Not instead of Java, but some JavaScript sites couldn't
interacting with a site that has JavaScript functionality. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually,
yes.
not directly by pure JavaScript, okay. But Angular or Vue.
Okay.
I get some trouble in this part.
Okay. Yeah, probably one of the challenges with that is synchronizing on a single page or like a single page web app, right? That is refreshing without reloading the page. So synchronizing, detecting when elements change is a big challenge, and we will be discussing that a lot. Thank you. Let me see if I can get over here. I need to be able to see both the user list and everything else. Let's see. Kalaivani, sorry for mutilating your name.
Yeah, not a problem. First of all, I just want to say thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's really fantastic because in a single session you are trying to cover Java, Selenium, and test case as well. So it's really fantastic. Personally, what I like, we have to go with some background about core Java and Selenium and test framework varieties, and then we can go for build automation tools like Maven or something like that. Because most of the people I see here all are beginners, so for them it might be difficult to follow what you are telling. So that is my personal comments on that. Otherwise, it's fantastic.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, and that's where I think there may be a split that we'll go into more detail. I kind of rushed through some of the details because I didn't know who all was able to understand what I was doing, and I didn't want to bore them. But I also kind of went slow and explained some things for beginners. So I think what we can do is we can have a follow-up where we go through more slowly, like basics of Java, basics of JUnit. And I'm going to introduce those to the group, but also if, as I mentioned at the beginning, if you want like a private session or a small group session, I'm willing to do those at another time for a fee. So that's another option. Like, for instance, if one individual is just stuck and they know it's something with their computer or they're just missing some detail, and they want to hire me for half an hour to help them sort that out on one-on-one, I can do that. But yeah, I think, and I've thought, you know, over the weekend as I've been communicating with you all, that I'll split this up into two classes. One that's fairly advanced, at least that they know the core concepts of Java and maybe Selenium, and are perfectly fine running code. And for those who are just getting started programming or just getting their environment set up, and we can go slower and stop and ask more questions for that. But thank you for that feedback.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
Thank you.
And thank you. Goodbye. Lakshmikant, sorry if I butchered your name. Did you have a comment?
Yeah. Thanks, Aaron. It was a nice session, and most of the points are already covered by the people. But I would say that a framework design is a crucial part for any test automation. So if you include that part, that would be great.
I will. And while I'm going with JUnit as the core framework, we can explore other tools like TestNG or JUnit 5 much later on down the list. And you know, yeah,
and along with
and agree. On top of the framework, the core test runner, there are a lot of framework concepts, you know, involved in parallelization and page objects. Some of it's a matter of opinion, some of it's a matter of expedience, and some of it's things you may inherit at your work. So there may be framework design questions that don't have a yes or no or a correct way. Just this, I do this because this is the way I learned it, or I do this because it has this benefit, even if it has this other disadvantage. But thanks. Yeah, we'll go into more frameworks once we've gone over the fundamentals, or in an advanced group, maybe we'll pick apart different framework details as a discussion in an advanced group. Thank you for your comments.
One last suggestion. Extend reports. Reporting is also a crucial part for test automation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's probably a whole nother subject. Even if it's not as big of a subject, but right, you can use. There's many reporting frameworks that you can use that really provide the value, because one challenge is if tests are running and only the tester who wrote the test ever sees the results, or if you know, maybe the developers are seeing it, the continuous integration server is running and you know a pass or fail, that's fine. But for someone who's a manager or a product owner, or who may be on another team, they might care about a higher level detail, or a higher level than the detailed individual test output report. And that's where the value comes from, right? So we'll explore that in a later topic as well.
Great. Thanks, Adam. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
All right. Let's see. Peggy, do you have any comments?
Yeah, this was awesome, Aaron. Thank you so much. I think it's great. Actually three things. I'm definitely interested in API testing, and specifically, I'd really like to go into depth with Postman. I'm familiar with it and have used it, but I haven't used it as far as like creating tests. So,
okay, that's great. That's a great idea.
I'm going to be down for JavaScript definitely tomorrow.
Okay.
The other thing, I don't know if this is a class, but something that I see in going through a lot of QA job postings is, and I'm looking at JavaScript based, but I think this would apply to any language that someone's using, is experience with Cypress, or experience with Mocha and Chai, or experience with all the different frameworks. So maybe something where it's just maybe like, you kind of do a talk for 15 minutes, like how do you decide like what framework to use, no matter what the language is? I'm just using JavaScript as an example, and how once you learn one, you could probably figure out the other ones. But like, if you apply for a job that says, hey, we want you to use this, we want you to use framework X, but you've only used framework Y, how you could take that experience, or how if you take a job where, oh, you're going to build the framework from scratch, like how do you kind of decide when there's so many, and especially if you're new to that. And then just my final thing that I know you talked about Cucumber. I see more and more things where people want you to have experience with continuous integration. I know Cucumber is pretty popular, so I love that idea too. So this is awesome. And again, just thank you so much for doing this. I'm super appreciative. And I've got some classmates and some old coworkers I'm gonna definitely invite.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I think I'll probably do like standalone workshops. Like we could do a Postman one-day seminar that people from any language could attend. I've kind of picked, Monday JavaScript, Tuesday JavaScript, Wednesday Python, etc., as just kind of a cadence for me. That may change, but yeah, we could totally do here in a few weeks something on Postman specifically. As well as, I picked Python for API testing just for something to do because I don't want to do Selenium and Python, Selenium and Java, Selenium and JavaScript over and over. But you brought up a good point that there are so many tools that you can either have analysis paralysis, where you can't decide what to use, or you may be familiar with one and uncomfortable with another. And you're right, understanding the fundamentals of programming and the core concepts for automation can transfer easily from whether you're using Selenium or Cypress, or whether you're writing tests with JUnit or TestNG or Mocha or whatever. So I encourage, yeah, that's kind of a high level topic, and it's hard to come up with something meaningful that's not just opinion, but I'd like to discuss that in the future. Thank you. All right. Looks like we've got a couple more. Rahul, do you have any comments?
Hey, hi, Haran. Thank you so much for the presentation, and it was very useful. I am actually looking for like advanced level since I've been in this industry. So having a more core advanced concepts will help. That's what I think, but it depends the rest of the people also. I think most of here are looking for like a beginner. So
yeah, and we'll split it up. I just need to find the time, and of course it takes more time to prepare an advanced topic. I can do Hello World in my sleep, but if I want to talk about using Lambda expressions in page objects, that takes a little more planning, for instance.
Yeah.
But yeah, stick around. We'll communicate, and probably not this week, but maybe next week I'll get a group of people who are interested in a more advanced class where we may pick specific topics rather than going in a structured start to end. Thank you.
And one more thing I want to know. So you have a course of a Docker, I believe, right?
Yes. And that's a case where, like I mentioned with JavaScript, I have some familiarity, but I'm not an expert. So on Friday, I'm going to do a cloud deployment with Docker course, and it's going to be let's learn together how to use it. And I'll pick up both.
I do have an experience, but I wanted to see skill up my skills also.
So I did this same thing with just one-on-one with a personal friend using Python and data analysis, and I'm going to repeat that class on Thursday. Just going through together with a book. He had the stats knowledge. He was a stats grad, and I had the programming knowledge, and we just worked through the book together, doing a screen share, and that was pretty fun. That was really the inspiration for all of this for me. You may have noticed that I'm really informal. I'm more disorganized today than I normally will be, hopefully, but I do like to keep things informal, and I may digress on other topics, and you'll just have to deal with that if you want to continue working with me. But I appreciate all of you guys. I see a couple of hands raised. Samia.
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Great, how are you?
I'm good. First, thank you for the session. It was amazing.
You're welcome.
If you can send me, please, an invitation for the API testing session, it would be great.
Okay.
Because I'm interested in API testing.
All right. Yeah, I thought I did, but I'll make sure I get that to you. For the Python API testing, right?
Okay, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Or did you want Java?
It could be with Python.
Okay.
Okay. Second, are we going to discuss Git and CI/CD, or if there's an advanced level?
So I think what we will try and do starting next week, today I'm going to send a follow-up email and say, here's a Git project with my Hello World example. And for those who understand how to use Git and import projects, they can run with it. But next week, we will start off the class, I think, by using Git to check out the project with the dependencies and run from there. So I do want it to be integral. I don't want you to just, okay, I understand Selenium now. I want you to be able to work as a developer, and using Git and using continuous integration is part of what you need to know as a tester. People come out of university and they may have a good concept of programming, but they've never done testing before, for instance, or used source control. So that's something I hope to integrate. And that's why I also stress the command line. I want you to understand the command line because it's an important tool for developers, but also because it's important to know how things are executed outside of your IDE if you want to use continuous integration. thank you for that comment.
Yeah, and also the last thing, are you going to talk about the locators, the types of locators?
Yes, next week as well, I will introduce locators, how to find elements and how to know what to find them by XPath or ID or CSS, etc.
Okay, great. So we are going to meet once a week, right?
I think so. I think it'll be the same time every week. We'll keep the introductory course at this time. For an advanced class, we'll probably figure out a different time and go with that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Vivek.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, so, yeah, hi. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, great too. Thanks for asking. So, what I observed till now is, once we have to cover like a hybrid framework first, which can include data-driven framework and TestNG as well. And what I observe is TestNG has upper hand if we compare it with JUnit. And like which kind of annotation we are going to use in future, like TestNG provides more annotation than JUnits, so that is also a good point to cover in this kind of sessions. So what my suggestion to you is, could you separate that this batch is like some of the like 50% of the candidates has experience level and some of them are beginners. So if beginner will be there, they can pick less what you have explained till now.
Yeah, and like I've said, we're probably going to keep the beginner class at this time and then have a different time for more advanced people. I'm aware a lot of people are using TestNG, and I'm not going to shy away from using TestNG, but I prefer JUnit. Things like using data providers are useful with TestNG, and I'll probably talk about TestNG data providers, but I'll also show you how you can do the same thing with JUnit. One advantage JUnit has, in my opinion, over TestNG is simplicity. And especially for an introductory class, that's important. But a lot of the advanced things with TestNG can be a stepping stone when you run into complex scenarios with parallelization, for instance, like I mentioned at the beginning.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And one more thing I wanted to tell you is like which kind of this thing reporting framework you are going to use in future in your class. That could be really helpful for us as well as for client as well.
Yeah, I think for reporting tools, those will be a case of rather than introducing a reporting tool as part of the regular class, that I'll have a specific advanced session, like Peggy mentioned about Postman or Cypress, that we will say, well, we're going to talk about Allure reports in a special session today, and we're going to just focus on that, something like that. And that way we can also look at different tools, whether you like Allure or some other reporting framework.
I see. Okay.
All right, thank you.
It was nice session.
All right, great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, see you. Bye-bye.
Did I miss anyone? Looks like we have a late straggler who probably got the wrong time. Nashua, did you get a chance to speak? Go for it, Nashua.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. First of all, thank you very much for this great session.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you.
So I came late. I can't know plan or what we want to do the next. Also, I want to take part in API testing, if it's possible.
Okay, it's really hard to hear you. You're fading in and out. Maybe you could type in the chat and anything else. I heard you say API testing, but if you have another comment, you can either try saying it again louder or just type it into the chat and we can discuss it.
I want to know the plan for the beginner for automation testing Java. with Selenium. What we will do after that will be project for practicing for what?
Okay, so you're talking about how long the session is going to last?
Yes.
So my plan is to do 1 hour once a week for each particular class and to have it go ongoing, so indefinitely. If we exhaust the topics in the beginner class in 3 months or 6 months or something like that, then if there's still people interested, I might start over at the beginning. But that's what I figure is a general course run will be maybe 3 months for start to finish. I'm not doing this as like a fixed curriculum. It's going to be a progression, but I also mentioned I will digress on some topics from time to time, or we may do a special session about a reporting tool or whatever, and maybe we'll break those off at a different time. As I go through doing this, I may develop a fixed curriculum and provide that, to say that, yes, this is going to be 12 one-hour sessions, and these are the topics that are going to be covered in that order. I hadn't planned on doing it that way to make it easier for me, frankly, but also because I want it to be informal. I want it to be personal. It's hard with a large group to be personal, but I hope that'll go. And I'm also going to save the recordings. I think I may not have recorded this. I think I set it for auto record, but the plan is to record each session and then publish it to YouTube or somewhere so people can review. And then eventually I'll have someone edit it so that it's more concise and you can watch through the videos. But thank you for your comments and feedback. Oh, Vivek, there we go. I see your comments in the chat. All right, has anyone else had comments that they wanted to make that they haven't yet? Just grabbing all the chat messages to save.
Hi, Aaron. This is Aditya.
Hey.
So, Arun, I'm looking more into API automation with the advanced topics of Selenium, like framework designs.
Okay.
So, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Probably if you can categorize the sessions or the classes into different time slots, it would be great.
Yeah, I'll think about that this week. Like I said, I'm fairly swamped, very busy trying to just get this going, and I didn't spend a lot of time organizing because I figured it was better to get started than to wait a couple weeks to be fully organized.
Yes,
I apologize if it did seem off the wall, but yeah, we'll get into API testing. An important point to note is that they're not entirely separate. Like, for instance, when you do your Selenium testing, you don't want to do everything in Selenium. That it makes sense when you can. For instance, if you're automating a workflow where you want to create an account and then log in and then add items to a shopping cart or do whatever features you are and then place an order, that you don't want to do all of those steps at once, especially because Selenium can be slow and it can be brittle. It's better to, for instance, if you can create an account by making an API call and then just log in as that user, and then delete the account via API call when you're done with the test, it makes sense. So there's going to be some crossover, and the best Selenium test is one where you only use Selenium for the feature you want to test, and you're able to do setup or post validation via API or database call, or to isolate features. For instance, if to take the shopping cart analogy a bit further, if you want to calculate the tax rate on an order, to use Selenium to do that, to go through that whole process of logging in, adding items to your cart, selecting a payment method, all these type of things, and all you really care about doing in this test is making sure that this user gets the right tax rate for their country or region, that's probably something that's better performed in a unit test. And what that's telling you is that you should make your code more testable, not that you should add more automation steps with Selenium. So that's something else I'll go into. But thank you for your feedback.
Yeah, and one more thing for API automation, I would be good with Java as a language.
Okay. It may make sense, and probably what we'll do is we'll spend the first, in this Java class, we'll spend the first couple months really delving into Selenium, and then as the same group, the beginner group progresses, that they may go into API testing. Now, for the advanced group, we may do a specific subject one week and a completely different subject another week. Rather than a progression, we might say, okay, we're going to talk about page objects this week, and we'll talk about API testing the next week, based on the group feedback and my own opinions of what I think is the best thing to cover next. So stay tuned. Is there anyone else who has a comment? I need to wrap this up. But feel free.
Yes. My request to for API automation with Java, it will be great if you add that too.
All right, that sounds good. We'll plan on doing that sometime in the next, month or so. I don't know. Like I said, I'm very busy getting this organized and also trying to figure out how to maintain my income. So I'm maybe drawn away from the amount of training I can do by work I do for pay as well. Another thing is, and I've mentioned this a couple times, I'm willing to cover a specific topic in a private, either one-on-one or a group session for pay. I don't know how that'll work yet, but if you're willing to organize, the simple thing is there's a site called Code Mentor that I sometimes use, and you can, pay me by the hour online to do that. But another thing is if we have a group, that wants to schedule an API session that's convenient for them and a specific topic, I can go ahead and plan that, and we can set a fee for that. I don't know the availability for that. Everything's up in the air right now, but we'll see.
Yeah, okay. Great, thanks.
All right. Thank you all, both for your feedback and your participation. I hope that we're going to be able to make this valuable and everyone will get something out of it. I do have limited time, and I know you do too, and I respect your time and your input and involvement as well. So take care until next week, or until tomorrow or the next day for some of you who are attending the other courses. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Aaron. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye, Aaron.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, bye.